Welcome to the LDN Radio Show, brought to you by the LDN Research Trust. I'm your host, Linda Elsiegood. I have an exciting lineup of guest speakers who are LDN experts in their field. We will be discussing low dose naltrexone and its many uses in autoimmune diseases, cancers, etc. Thank you for joining us. Today I'd like to welcome our guest, Dina from Canada, who's an LDN user. Thank you for joining us today, Dina.
It's my pleasure.
Can you tell us your journey, what led you to LDN?
Yes, I really want to start by saying that I'm a very private person and I wouldn't be normally doing something like this, but LDN means so much to me that I really, really wanted to do this interview with you. In the early 1980s, woke up actually with stiffened and swollen ankles, and I couldn't walk. And when I went to the doctor and she did the blood work and examination, when the blood work came back, she said, because of my family history and the symptoms I was exhibiting, that I had rheumatoid arthritis. And she said within a few years, because I was 27, I think at the time, that I would be in a wheelchair like my grandmother. And of course, this came as a big shock to me. And then I don't really remember the timeline in terms of how many months, but I started having other symptoms and would be going back to her with severe sun allergy, hives and rash and other things, achings and pains and all this. That took 6 weeks before I could walk with anti-inflammatories. And that was with the assistance of my husband. I was shuffling like I was 90 years old. But this was after I recovered. I still had a lot of strange things going on. And I would go to her and she redid my blood work and she came back. And I remember that day really clearly because she literally got down on one knee where I was sitting to be below me, to take my hand and say, it's not rheumatoid arthritis, which I thought was great news. And she said, it's worse. And I thought, how could it be worse? And she said, it's lupus. And I said, well, I don't think I knew what lupus was. And I said, why is that worse? And she said, because it can affect your organs and you can end up in the hospital and die. And I thought, okay, I really couldn't compute this. It was way too much. So she did send me to a specialist and she told me all about it and asked me a lot of questions and did some more tests. And then she wrote a prescription in front of me for an anti-malarial drug and a chemo drug. And as she was writing it, I had said, just a moment, because during that time I'd been going to lupus meetings before that specialist appointment came up. At these meetings, the people there would tell me they started with 2 prescriptions and now their medicine cabinets were full, so full they couldn't even close them. They had to have bags of other medications for side effects of different drugs. And I was quite scared by this. And so I said to her, if I take these drugs, will I be saved from this one thing that terrified me at these lupus meetings was people saying they woke up in the middle of the night after going to bed fine with kidney failure and had to be rushed to the hospital, and literally lose a kidney. This had happened to several people in the meetings. And she said, she stopped writing the prescription. She looked at me, she said, I'm sorry, I can't guarantee that won't happen to you, even if you take these drugs. That was the point where I decided I wasn't taking these drugs and I would weather whatever this threw at me. If I stayed out of the sun, I think I would have weathered it better, but I didn't do that as much because as time went on and I had different doctors, if my blood work didn't show anything, the doctor would say, you don't have lupus. And I would float out of the office thinking this was wonderful and be back in the sun and have, I'll just look at my notes, the things that I had, like neurological symptoms that would be short-lived, but a dementia, night terrors. I even woke up paralyzed one time, vestibular migraines with fever, chills, vomiting, diarrhea, in chronic infections, herpes and shingles back to back, reactions to chemicals like paint fumes. I would be hit like a truck and end up in bed for days. And some supplements worked, and some things were, helpful. Diet, autoimmune things that I would try in diets, but nothing was modulating my immune system like LDN talks about doing. And that makes sense to me. It was suppressing or boosting my immune system and causing a reaction, because if you boost your immune system with lupus type conditions, you end up sicker. I had a drawer full of braces for fingers, knees, back, everything, for different times when I couldn't use parts of my body without pain. I had such incredible reactions to bug bites that they're very tiny, these little black flies in Canada, and they like to bite right by the eyes. I have pictures of myself just black and blue, all puffed up. I look like somebody beat me up. It goes on and on. The list is just so amazing. It's almost too much. But as time went on and my efforts with diet, some supplements, it seemed that I could just dampen down if I stayed out of the sun. So get up at 4 a.m, get out there a couple hours before the sun even rose, and lots of sunscreen if I had to even just walk to a car, because 1 minute, 2 minutes could cause insane itching for days. So, don't eat this, eat that. It's got to the point where I was hardly eating any foods. It just really difficult, but still soldiering on because I didn't want to take any medications. Then the most recent doctor I have, who happens to have lupus, said that because I have weathered for this many decades and my blood work doesn't always show, and I haven't had major organ failure, that she didn't think I had lupus. She thought I have, it's called undifferentiated connective tissue disease, which is still under the umbrella of, connected with lupus symptoms. So it made sense when I read the information. I couldn't imagine getting older and dealing with some of these issues. And when I found out about LDN, thankfully, because of your books and the research trust, I'm eternally grateful to you. It made so much sense, but I spent months researching because it sounded too good to be true. But after 3 months on LDN, some things are true. It does work. It's amazing what's happened. My husband is so impressed. He's watched this and he's going to go on LDN. He's just amazed at the changes. And it's just the beginning. I said to myself, I'm going to give this 18 months because I'd read that it can take up to that long to see all the results from being on it. And I'm just amazed at the changes that have happened. Chronic infections like the herpes and shingles, so diminished. Chronic pain, 80% diminished. Sleeping better, calm, this lovely euphoria that I feel, just maybe because I'm well for once, or maybe because I really need endorphins that are really important and I haven't had enough. There's just a multitude of things. No vertigo. I'm not even taking the supplement magnesium that would sort of control that whole thing for me. It's definitely not a placebo effect. It's just too remarkable. The list is too long. It seems like every week that goes by, symptoms, little things I notice, gosh, I'm not sore there anymore. I don't get this pain in the back of my head when I'm biking. I don't do anything very long, whether it's biking or kayaking, because I live in the country. It's all very short-lived and not very strenuous, but always I had to stop sooner because of some body part that was screaming. And I don't have that. I can keep going. And I try to pace myself to make sure I don't overdo it. It's just wonderful.
But how easy was it for you to get a prescription?
I don't think it would have been easy. I was really lucky because the city I live in isn't that large. And a doctor I had this one that has lupus, she had finished her business. She opened up her practice again, and I found out by phoning a compound pharmacist because I wanted to find out which doctors were prescribing. And he mentioned her name. And so she wasn't taking any new patients. So that was a bit difficult. I had to wait for a while. But once we talked, she said that she definitely would. She had 5 other patients doing wonderfully on it for a variety of things, mostly fibromyalgia, I believe. And she's been very supportive. She's just so thrilled every time I report to her how I'm doing. But I know, having been on Facebook groups, it's not the case. It can be very difficult. And I'm trying to help someone in BC right now that's having difficulties. I just got lucky, I think.
So when you first started, did you notice any introductory side effects? Did you have any amazing wow moments? What was it like?
I certainly had side effects at the beginning that I considered mild. My sleep was disturbed. Each week I went up a bit. I had a major GI effect. I'd had the nausea that came and went and headaches that came and went. They weren't too bad. I could ignore it. But then I had a major GI problem where it was heartburn and it felt like my gallbladder. That area of my body was very painful. And I immediately remembered that you can have subliminal drops. And I decided that I should try that or consult with my pharmacist and my doctor about that. And that's what we did. And that took care of that. Other than that, I've been pleasantly surprised that I didn't have too bad. Like I was groggy and tired sometimes, and sometimes had lots of energy. The wow moments were sleeping. That amazed me, being able to sleep and have relatively no pain, because pain seemed to be worse at night for me these last few years. And so that was cut back, and that was amazing. And just being able to go back to deep sleep, a different kind of sleep than I've had for decades. So that was pretty wow. And the other wow was that euphoria that I described briefly before, was just feeling like I felt so calm and yet so happy. And I thought, my goodness, that's different. So that was definitely wow. I just wanted to get on the rooftop and scream at LDN is wonderful. Everyone should, that has problems should really look at this, and see if it works for them. I was very skeptical, extremely skeptical, because so many supplements I've tried, even though they do help with inflammation, I found that they also, I couldn't take them for more than a few days without getting stimulated and other issues starting to happen or having side effects from the supplements. So this, I was waiting, always looking over my shoulder, waiting for something. But it's been over 3 months and it only gets better. My energy level, that's definitely wow. Just, to get through a day and not feel like I'm dragging myself at different points in the day. I still have a nap because I work at home and I can, and I think it's healthy to have a short nap. So, and I go to bed really early because I get up so early. And I eat, anti-inflammatory type diet, but those things weren't enough.
What supplements are you currently taking?
I take D2, I take B12, I take DHA, PA supplement, and I wrote it down. I just have a quick look here, make sure I didn't leave anything out. Oh, yes, K2 and K7, which is with the vitamin D2. Those are the only supplements I'm taking. And I haven't had to take any of the, I call them emergency ones, like grape seed extract or pine bark extract, which are really anti-inflammatory or turmeric. It's definitely reduced inflammation in my body. There's no doubt about that. And as far as infection goes, I did not expect that. Another wow, because I had a quote I saw, I was just going to look for it here, that I read years ago that I didn't believe, because I always had to control my shingles, herpes outbreaks with diet, low arginine, high lysine diet. People who are familiar with that know. But this infectious disease specialist said inflammation is the reason for infection. And I thought, how is that even possible? It didn't make sense to me. But now it makes sense, because by some, process of modulating my immune system, I'm not struggling. And that was, for some people, they don't get affected by their chronic conditions. I really was on the rare end of the scale where it affected me like very, very intensely. Lots of pain, lots of fatigue, headaches, the whole 9 yards. So if I was, 5 days like that, then a couple of days recovery, it was exciting to have nothing happening and then back into it again. So it was not something you talked about with somebody you met or someone family or anything, because, it's not something you share. But I wanted to talk about it because I hope somebody else listens and tries it. Maybe it works for them. I'm not sure if it's just me, but I find it remarkable because there really is nothing out there. I did a year of one of the antivirals, and I had the specialist save me to get off it because one of the side effects I had was vertigo. To get off it immediately, you can't take it. So I never tried that again.
So are you on any other pharmaceutical medications?
No, I haven't in the past, and I'm not now.
Wonderful.
I don't even aspirin for a headache because I react.
Well, that's an amazing, amazing story, and it's very inspirational. I'm sure it will help thousands of people, truly. So thank you very much for sharing your story, and maybe next year you'd like to come back and give us a follow-up.
I would really like that. I really would, Linda. I thank you so much for everything. You've done so much work, and I'm, for one, extremely grateful. And yes, please, I would love to come back and do a follow-up.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Any questions or comments you may have, please email me, Linda, Linda, at ldnrt.org. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for joining us today. We really appreciated your company. Until next time, stay safe and keep well.